Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to AiArthritis Voices 360. This is the official talk show for the International Foundation for Autoimmune and Autoinflammatory Arthritis, or AiArthritis for short. And if you are tuning in here visually, you see I am nowhere near alone. We have many, many friends here. And this is a very exciting episode. We are streaming live in honor of World Autoimmune and Autoinflammatory Arthritis Day. We'll shorten that too to AI Arthritis Day. And I am very excited to be sharing this platform today with several of our recurring AI Arthritis Voices 360 co-hosts. So I'm going to go around here and have everybody say hello and a little bit about who they are, where they're tuning in from. Let's start. Let's start with Kelly, because Kelly is our co-founder. That seems like an appropriate place to start.
Hey, hello everybody. It's Kelly Conway. I am a co-founder of the International Foundation for Autoimmune and Autoinflammatory Arthritis. I'm coming to you live from Philadelphia, and I'm very excited. This is one of my favorite annual events every year, and I'm sad we couldn't be in person, but I'm thrilled that we are all here together, and I'm excited for this conversation.
And what is your diagnosis, may I
Oh,
ask?
my diagnosis, well, it's ever changing. It's currently I love when other people understand that. Don't go, what do you mean? It's currently rheumatoid arthritis.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well, I think that might
Yes.
even be news to me, because just 2 weeks ago, I think it was something different.
No, it's been this since October or September of
Okay.
last year.
Okay.
So
All
right
right.
now it's rheumatoid arthritis, and yes, I'm actually doing well. So I'm
Oh,
excited to be here.
that's my dog. Sorry. Let's jump over to Katie. Katie, say hello to everyone.
Hi, everybody. I'm Katie Steele. I'm coming to you from Southern California, and I am a adult living with rheumatoid arthritis. I was actually diagnosed when I was 7 years old with polyticular rheumatoid arthritis, and it changes sometimes too, but pretty boring for right now. Thankfully, on a really good biologic that's making it really easy to show up for this stuff, which is awesome. And I'm really, really excited to be in front of such amazing company, you guys. Thank you for coming, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie.
Mhm.
Let's go over to Rick. Hey, Rick.
Hey, so I'm Rick Phillips coming to you from Indianapolis, the home of what we would usually be having the great race of the year, but not this year.
You're in a new great race
I know.
right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. I have rheumatoid arthritis, ankylosing spondylitis, and type 1 diabetes.
All right. Thanks, Rick. Let's go to the Mata sisters. I have to introduce them sort of together. We got Estella and Juana joining us. So I don't know which one of you want to start.
I can start. Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting us, Tiffany. Juana Mata, one of the Mata sisters. I was diagnosed with lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, Sjogren's, AFib, lupus pleuritis in 2009. And I am in California, LA County.
Great. Thanks, Juana. And
Mhm.
Estella.
Hi, everyone. I'm Estela Mata, and I'm the other Mata sisters. There's actually 5 of us, but we're the ones that are active. The ones that are active in this.
There's 6. I wanted.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. You're our other sister. And I do not live with any arthritis, any sort of arthritis condition. However, I am a loved one supporter and a caregiver. My mom lives with osteoarthritis, and my sister, as you heard, lives with rheumatoid arthritis. So I'm here representing the caregivers and loved ones.
Yeah, it takes a village. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And then, of course, last but not least, bright and early in the morning from Australia, we have Judy. Hi, Judy.
Hi everyone. I'm Judy from Australia, the United Advocate, and I like to support people from all over the world with their chronic illnesses that they live with, and I volunteer with the International Foundation for Autoimmune Autoinflammatory Arthritis, and I live with rheumatoid arthritis.
All right. And we had several other of our co-hosts. We have over a dozen from around the world. But, with time differences, that makes it a little bit challenging. So we want to, first of all, thank everyone who was able to be on here for this co-host, the biggest co-host we've had by far. And so just a little bit about the way that we have this show set up. We wanted to use this platform tonight to introduce some of the co-hosts that we have. At our organization, we believe that all voices matter. All voices are needed to hear the perspectives and the opinions and the experiences. And whether you are living in the United States, if you're living in Australia, if you're living in Europe, all of the locations matter. It also matters your age, how long you've been diagnosed, your gender. There's so many things that come into play when we're talking about solutions that will impact education, advocacy, and research. And so we thought we needed to make sure that we were representing a good overview, and that's including the caregivers and the supporters, because they are certainly a huge part of our journeys. And so in this show, our goal as an organization that we have transferred into the show is to host conversations that bring the patient voice to the table as equals, and then just alongside other stakeholders. So sometimes we'll have doctors and researchers and nurses, etc. Anyone who is part of the team that we need to solve problems. So we bring everyone to the table. Patients as equals, led conversation, patients leading the conversations, and we talk about problems that we believe together we will be able to solve. And we're going to introduce one of those big issues tonight in honor of World Autoimmune Autoinflammatory Arthritis Day, and that is the issue of awareness and education. So before I turn it over and start the conversation with some of all of these wonderful co-hosts here, I just want to give a little background on this day and why it was established. So essentially, there are over 100 autoimmune or autoinflammatory diseases, and those are both types of diseases that stem from the immune system. There's two sides. There's the adaptive side, which is where autoimmune diseases come from, and then there is the innate side, and that is where the autoinflammatory come from. And some of the diseases are even a combination of both. But they both come from the immune system. And because there are so many and we have overlapping features that I know they're all going to share with you when it comes to auto fatigue and maybe some flu-like symptoms, and we can go on, and we will. We also have a smaller cluster of diseases that present early on with arthritis as a major clinical component. And so by focusing in on this group of diseases, we are actually able to increase the awareness that comes around these. So let's say for early detection, if somebody would go into a doctor's office and say, well, I have these classic auto features, and I also am experiencing arthritis, automatically the doctors could zero in on this group of diseases. Also, they could look at the other autoimmune and autoinflammatory if it doesn't have the arthritis. So it's really a great way of focusing in on this cluster. And the other reason we do it is because, as many of these co-hosts will tell you, there's many challenges associated with our diseases and the misunderstandings that come along with it. And we hope that by creatively comparing our diseases to automobiles, that we will be able to lift some of those misunderstandings. I am going to turn it. I've had a busy week. I'm turning it over to my co-hosts. So we're going to have everybody start sharing a little bit about their journey and why they particularly feel that education and awareness is important. Is there anyone who would like to start? And we'll go from there.
I'll be happy to start.
Great. Go ahead, Rick.
Education is just really critically important. I had absolutely no idea when I was diagnosed that anything was even wrong. And it was actually my endocrinologist who said, we all do some blood work here. And he did. And the next thing I knew, I was at a rheumatologist office. And the rheumatologist said, you've got rheumatoid arthritis. And I was like, what? What? First of all, men don't get rheumatoid arthritis. I mean, the literature says that 70 to 80% of those with RA are female. And, uh, and yet here I was with this condition. And it was completely came out of left field. There was, I just had no understanding of it. So one of the reasons that I advocate is for so that men do understand that they also get conditions like rheumatoid arthritis, and that men get ankylosing spondylitis, and women as well. And the more we talk about these conditions, the more normalized they become. And the more normalized they become, the more likely it is to end suffering in the world. Because I don't know how long I walked around with that condition, and I just had no idea, none whatsoever.
I think that's a common thing that we hear from a lot of people, is that they had no idea. And I know, I didn't grow up. I grew up knowing about rheumatoid arthritis. My aunt had rheumatoid arthritis, my Aunt Shirley, and my parents' next door neighbor had it. So I remember as a kid seeing toes that were, crossed, and asking my parents. And I remember my mom and dad would both say, well, they have the really bad kind of arthritis.
Mhm.
And I didn't know what that meant. But when I turned, 32, suddenly those words were coming around, and I panicked because, again, I saw what it did to a body. So I
Right.
wasn't ignorant to what would happen. But what I was shocked by is that nobody else knew what it meant. And I'm sure all of you are going to shake your heads. As soon as you say, oh, I have rheumatoid arthritis, somebody's going to look at you and say, oh, so do I.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have it in my knee.
In my knee.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Oh, I have it in my thumb. And granted, that's not to say my father and mother
Right.
both have very severe osteoarthritis.
Mhm.
My father's very disabled from it, and it's painful. Not saying that it's not, but
Right.
like today I went for a walk, and it was the fatigue more so than the pain
Mhm.
that caused me to cut the walk short today, because I just physically, it's like walking through molasses. So I think education and awareness is huge, because ours is more than just the pain. It's
Right.
actually systemic.
Right. So I think awareness is important, because a lot of people still don't understand or know that that arthritis is actually affecting younger individuals. I know that I mentioned to a couple of people that I have arthritis, and they said, "But why do you have arthritis? You're so young." And
Mhm.
so we really need to bring awareness and let people know that it's not just happening to older people, it's happening to very young children, uh, uh, young adults, and teenagers. So we really need to bring the awareness. We want people to know, understand that it's something that is happening, and that we really need their understanding, because having arthritis is not easy. It's painful to get up, to do a lot of things that somebody who doesn't have it will be able to do.
Mhm.
Like you said, Kelly, just walking, taking a shorter walk because of the pain, inflammation, or the fatigue that you were going through. So a lot of the times people don't understand that. Even our own family members might not even understand. Our children might not understand that we need to take a break. We can't do what we used to do before we were diagnosed, or before we had the arthritis. And it's different with everyone. I know that my mother
Mhm.
has osteoarthritis, so her pains are a little different than what I go through, or the fatigue.
Yes.
Definitely. And
Absolutely.
just like you were talking about, everyone is different. So for loved ones and caregivers, we also need to be aware of what symptoms you're feeling, how you're feeling, how is it affecting you? Because like you said, sister, you have rheumatoid arthritis. It affects you completely different. And you have other autoimmune conditions, right?
Correct.
And my mom having osteoarthritis, it affects her differently. So for awareness and education in regards to this different symptoms and how everyone is feeling and how it impacts you is very important for loved ones and caregivers. We know we can't take the pain away, but we can definitely help with either chores around the house or make it a little bit easier or just listening to you guys.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times as patients, that's all we need. We just need to know that somebody is there for us. A lot of times we don't need to get, or for somebody to tell us what to do or what not to do, but just to be there, to know that you have somebody next to you, or that somebody that is going to listen and understand what you're going through.
Exactly. Kind of like going into the car theme, right? If you hear a noise, right, what do? Well, you might not notice it right away, but maybe we can notice it and we can say, hey, have you had that checked? Have you
That's a
noticed
good
that?
one. That's
that
such a
sound?
good one.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, bravo.
Look at
That was a
that.
good one.
Oh my God. I don't even want to say my car thing now. Gee.
Say your car thing. I have a lot of car things.
Okay. Well, I always kind of, even before today, I kind of always thought that like having RA is sort of like learning stick shift when I was first learning how to drive. Sometimes life is about the driving and you get to do a lot. Sometimes it feels like we're going in reverse. Sometimes you're stuck in neutral and you're not going anywhere, and I think that the best thing that you could possibly do is to just keep on trucking, as lame as that sounds, like we're really going to be okay, especially with people that we're surrounded like this. And I think that awareness is great, education is great, and it's taught me so much. Even today, I went to my infusion center and everybody in there was on different medications for different conditions. And there was still people that I've been meeting, and my nurse knows that I'm a part of things like this. So she always introduces me, has me hand out cards, talk about what I do. And almost every time I meet someone at my adult rheumatologist, one, they don't believe how old I am or how long I've had it or when I was diagnosed. No one understands the story. And it's crazy because that's people in our own community. So you think that you're doing all this good work and hopefully it's getting out there, but there's still always something to do. And I think that that's why things like we're doing today are so important, because you reach so many different people and families of those people, and teaching, like hopefully some of them tuned in because they knew that this was going to happen. So maybe they went home and stretched out and like they're here. So hi guys, if you're here, like I hope that you have something to learn. We all have something that we can contribute. And I think that's the best thing about what we're doing here today. So.
You said something that was brought up was the age. Juana, you said a lot of people, I think a lot of us have experienced that or heard of other people experiencing the confusion, because there are different types of arthritis, and the type that we have is associated with having an autoimmune or an autoinflammatory immune system disease, and that has a much different onset. The type that is associated with age is degeneration. I mean, over time, the cartilage is deteriorating, or it could be from an injury or excessive weight, and that's why sometimes you'll hear that, like Kelly said, in my knee, because it could be localized. But the average age of onset typically is in the general scope of these diseases is 20 to 40 in adults. Now, diagnosis, that's a whole different journey, right?
Story.
But I'm talking onset. Katie, how old were you when you had?
7 years old, and
Wow.
probably sooner because we actually found it as an underlying condition. I first had a cancerous tumor that I got after breaking my wrist twice. And when that was removed, thankfully, with some miracle, it was encapsulated and I didn't have to deal with cancer. But when we did the pathology report, the surgeon and the pathologist pointed out that I needed to go see a rheumatologist. and they sent me to Children's Hospital. And that's how I found out I had RA. Nowhere before that had we had anything like that in my family. It was nothing that was being discussed when I broke my wrist twice, but I guess the trauma of that sort of unlocked it in my body and sent the first flare out. And that is something that we discovered later. It was over a year of like mystery patient and what do I have? What does she have? And even when I went and actually had the surgery to get the cancerous tumor removed, that was not something that was part of my treatment plan. It was something that an educational surgeon took on as like I'll go ahead and check it out and see what I can do. And so everything about my diagnosis was completely by chance.
Wow.
So,
you know, it's interesting. My nephew has ankylosing spondylitis, and he was an athlete, and he played baseball, and he was a swimmer. He ran track, and he was treated for about a year, maybe a little over, for a bad hip, like a bruised hip and tendonitis in his hip. And you know, we live in Philadelphia where there are, you know, luckily in this area we have a lot of pediatric rheumatologists, where that's not the case many other places. So, but even his pediatrician, it took over a year. And you know, as a parent, my best friend kept saying, you know, he wants to play sports, and the doctor kept kind of saying, well, you know, he's hurt, he'll get back to it. But it wasn't a good enough answer for their son. So he finally one day he couldn't get out of bed, and when they called, they finally sent him for more tests. And I remember her saying to me, it was very funny, the call that I got back after those tests came back, the attitude was totally different. The attitude was, you have to get to Children's Hospital, you have to schedule with a pediatric rheumatologist. And so I even think this was just in the past 5 or 6 years. You would have thought there would have been more awareness by now.
And if you go back to me when I was diagnosed at age 7, there was not a pediatric rheumatologist in my network for my insurance. So I saw an adult rheumatologist who gave me adult dosages of medications and made me very, very ill, made me worse than my where I was at diagnosis. And we had to fight tooth and nail to see someone outside of my network and get to Children's Hospital. So back then everything was a push. Every specialist was hard to see. Every test was hard to get. And the only way I ever got anywhere in my disease, or like to actually have any kind of healing, was to get into clinical trials and be a part of something like that. So even back then, with very good insurance and like all these things that were supposed to be taken care of, it took a miracle to start treating me. And I think even now, I know there's people who still have no access to care, no access to the treatment that really helps them. And that's what we're working for all the time too. You know?
Yeah, you know, the mechanism that brings us to care is so outrageously different. As I said, I mentioned it to my endocrinologist. He ran some blood work. He said, you need to go over and see this person. And within a month, I had an appointment. I went, the doctor came in and he said, you have rheumatoid arthritis. You're going to start on methotrexate, you'll fail, and in 6 months you'll be on a biologic.
You love that we're supposed to fail. I love.
Yeah. And I mean, it was cut and dried from the minute I walked in his door until 6 months later when I started on the biologic, and did not miss a beat. And so just entering the world in that way, I had no concept that people had difficulty getting access to either diagnosis or treatment.
And Tiffany, I think Tiffany, you can speak to that because you went through a lot to get your diagnosis, and with different rheumatologists went to like different people who had differing opinions depending on where you were at. And I know it's hard for you to get your hands on biologics and things like that too.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's an interesting point. Yeah, Rick, because it depends on, and I want to hear, we got to go over to Judy and because I know she's a little more shy and she's not going to jump in. We're going to get Judy's awareness information and kind of what she believes in here next. One of the things that you said, you know, is in the beginning, you said, I didn't know. Then even when you were diagnosed, it's kind of like, well, what happens with this journey and how the treatment access, like Katie said, all of those reasons are so important for why we need to do this and why we need to bring this awareness. I've done one of the episodes, we'll have to link to it in the comments. I'm not sure which one it was, but I was talking about the differentiating of arthritis types and the autoinflammatory diseases that the arthritis derives from, and the other symptoms, the fatigue and brain fog and everything. But the point is that we were all the public before we were patients. We
Right.
were all the public. So we need to educate the doctors is one stakeholder group so that they can identify what we have early on. But the public is a huge one, because think about that. I had the same experience, Rick, where I said, I can't have rheumatoid arthritis. Well, actually, I didn't, because I have non-radiographic axial spondyloarthritis, but originally diagnosed with RA and lupus at some point. And that went, there was a lot that I've gone, back and forth. But I think that that's just important to note, is that, we have to remember that we were all uninformed at some point. And maybe the question is, what would we have wanted to know? What could we have help, if we could help people right now understand what to look for, what would that be? And I think that will really help with the awareness. I got to go to Judy, because Judy, you have to tell us. You have to tell us a little bit about why you're so passionate about this awareness.
I'm so passionate about the awareness because I want everyone to feel supported. I want to learn new things about the condition and everyone else's conditions as well, not just my own. And I volunteer with different orgs as well, just so I can learn different aspects of the conditions that we live with. And we all have a voice, and I'm trying to use it. So yeah, the best I can.
What would you say, Judy, as we're all talking about the different things about our diseases that maybe we didn't understand? What would you say is one of the most important things for you that you want people to understand about the condition you live with?
That there's some invisible aspects, like underneath the hood of a car, like you can't see
like the photo behind you.
Yes. Perfect photo.
Yes. The fatigue is definitely a big one. Yes. And there's so many different invisible things that just you don't always see. So
Absolutely.
we need to bring awareness to those as well. And with the different treatments, I like to learn how different, because not everyone's the same with how they're treated, with how they use their treatments. And then, I like to learn everyone's stories and everything.
Yeah. I think that's really important to talk about, is that there are so many people that have so many different conditions and things that are so unique to their diagnosis, their body, their condition, that there's always something that you should be learning and growing from.
Yeah.
And I think that I went through this very different situation where I actually went into remission for a few years and then was reintroduced to RA as an adult. And I think that transition is really difficult too. A lot of people don't talk about how it feels to go from a childhood disease where maybe your parents are taking more of your care seriously, or people are just taking more care of you because you're a child, and then you make the jump to being an adult and your insurance is in your name and it's your responsibility and no one can help you but you, kind of thing. And every job I took past then was about taking care of my body. I didn't think about school. I didn't think about anything. I just thought about what job will get me insurance so that I can continue to live. And I pushed my body to pass things that I probably should have because I was trying to treat my RA constantly. And I wish that there were different ways to go about that. And I think that's a lot of the reason why I fight today and why I'm very involved in like getting to know the different treatments and how we access those things and why don't we all have access to them kind of thing, because it's insane the kind of decisions that you have to make in this disease on a day-to-day basis already. Treatment should not be one of them. I don't think it should be included in the rat race of everything, you know. And like just like Judy said, under the hood, you have no idea. We could all sit here and, you know, like we put ourselves together today and we're here, and you if you saw us out in the world, you would not necessarily know what we have,
Right.
because it's all under the hood, you know.
That's
Well,
right.
I broke my leg a few years ago, and I'll never forget the surgeon came into me afterwards, and I separated my foot from my leg, basically. I ripped everything apart. So it was major surgery to get it repaired. And when he came in, he said, listen, I think I was concerned because it was my worst joint. And you know what he said to me? He goes, listen, I couldn't give you a Lamborghini repair job unless I gutted out that rusty old truck that was inside your ankle.
Oh,
And I was like, okay, all right. But it's amazing how the work he did on that joint, I don't think I'd still be walking. Like, that's how bad it was. And he repaired a lot of things in addition to repairing, because he said there's no way he could have put the plates in, put the screws in, and had me walk with all the damage that had already been put in place. So sometimes I think what a horrible traumatic experience it was, but who would think that a broken leg could actually help you in the long run?
Mhm.
But I was a broken down old truck.
But you had a great mechanic, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh,
And he was
gosh,
very proud of
Stella,
himself.
you're hired.
I
You
know.
are
A job.
But it's true, and not everyone, like Katie was saying, has that great mechanic or has that
Right.
great auto body shop to go to, and unfortunately, not everyone will do, you know, what you need for better treatment or better care. So it also is very important to advocate for yourself and,
Yes.
you know, kind of look around to see what is best for you.
I think one of the things that my parents taught me early on is that I did have issues in my joints and I did have systemic issues like fatigue and all those things, but arthritis has never touched my voice. And so they taught me very early on to tell my story and to tell it as loud to as many people as who would give me a soapbox. And it's not just, it became not about me a long time ago. It became about all the people who stand behind me, all the people that I've met, and all the people who don't get the opportunity to be on screen with us today or in the same doctor's offices or with the same opportunities, you know. So I think that we have this huge responsibility and a wonderful platform provided by Tiffany to
Not
do
me,
this.
our organization. I'm just one person.
Yes, but you did start, this was your brainchild, because I was there from the very beginning and I saw you actually make this out of nothing. So
Okay. Well, we also have Kelly co-founder. So
Right.
thank you, Kelly.
So
Yeah.
that's why I think that is so important for some of us to be the voice for all the other people who can't do it or they're shy. I am shy, but I also have a big voice, and that's one of the reasons why I think it's important for us to be the ones to be out here sharing and just bringing awareness, because a lot of people might not have the platform, might not have or just they might be way too nervous to even say something to help others.
Mhm.
Yes, and what Katie was saying, so I know my nephew and Juana's son actually has is it a Mustang? A Mustang, and he wants to put in this loud, I don't know what it is, when they hit the gas and it makes like a loud noise and they want to be noticed, which annoys me. But Katie, that's what we need, you know, for all the those that are living with arthritis or rheumatoid arthritis conditions, to, if you're writing or just writing slowly, just hit that whatever noise is. I don't know what it's called. I'm not a car person, but do you guys know what it's called? Rick, do you know what it's called? It's like a loud noise when you're hitting the gas and it just goes like it's like super loud. I don't know.
Yeah.
Revving it.
Accelerate.
Revs.
Annoying is what I call it.
Oh, me too. But we want to be loud sometimes.
Yeah.
We want to be loud.
Yeah.
Exactly. Which is the whole point of trying to be creative and this. Something that Katie alluded to was the invisibility. And I thought maybe if there's like maybe Rick or I think Juana, you were going to say something maybe on that because I saw you start to kind of light up when she said that. But does anyone want to weigh in on maybe Rick or Judy or Juana, Kelly on the invisibility and the awareness that we might need to think about when it comes to that to be more
Well,
visible?
I know that in the early part of my disease, I wanted to be invisible.
Mm.
You know, I
Mm.
developed type 1 diabetes when I was in high school, and I I'd gotten used to that, and and I wore that in a way that uh, that was visible to others. But when I was first diagnosed with RA, I didn't really want it to be visible. I didn't. I did everything to keep it to be invisible. And one of the things that we need to do is help people understand that that's not necessary. That it is not necessary to do that because the world's just fine. You know, the world treated me as well with rheumatoid arthritis as when I did not have rheumatoid arthritis. And we confuse sometimes that our condition is how the world views us. And by and large, that's just not true.
Yeah, that's a
Well
really
said.
good point. And I think, when everybody was introducing themselves, how many of us just had one thing? I didn't say everything I have, but I have fibromyalgia, I have thyroid disease,
Yep.
I have a skin disease. I mean, we are more than one thing. And I think also the thing that has to do with invisibility is a lot of times when I would get a new symptom, I would just assume it was
Hmm.
something caused by my, I had muscle pain. And I remember the first time I had it, it was for my thyroid. And I didn't know your thyroid could do that. So I had
Hmm.
this severe pain, and it came back again, and I ignored it thinking, oh, it's just my thyroid, it'll go away. And it just progressively got worse and worse because you can't see anything that's wrong. And that's the thing. People are like, oh, well, maybe you should just exercise, or maybe you should just change your diet, and not realizing it's so systemic. And I remember my endocrinologist saying to me right when I was diagnosed with Graves' disease, she's like, when you get one autoimmune disease, it opens the door to a lot of other autoimmune diseases. And I remember thinking, oh yeah, whatever. Within 2 years, I had two more autoimmune diseases. So I think, that is stuff that you really have to realize. It's invisible, but it is such a big part. And Rick, I agree. I let it define me for a while, and I had to really work on learning how to not do that. And
I,
that's really hard.
I think I want to ask one of this because I feel like we might have this in common because I come from a decently big family. I'm one of four. And
Mhm.
I think that once I got diagnosed and it was taking up a lot of my parents' time, I had a lot of guilt. And so I did hide a lot of what I was feeling or what I was going through because I didn't want to put any more pressure on my parents or my siblings. And so there was a real battle between what you do tell and what you don't tell. And I was just wondering if that's some of your invisibility story.
Well, I think I actually, uh, I yeah, I think I hide it by always pushing myself to do things. Um, Sometimes they would ask me, okay, we're gonna be, I don't know, going to Disneyland. Do you feel okay? And
Hmm.
yeah, I feel good. I mean, I'm okay to go. But I knew that I was gonna pay for. I mean, later that when I came back, I was gonna be in bed with pain. But I also felt that it was. I couldn't just tell my children they were young, or even Estella can say, she always takes care of me, so she's always asking me, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" I always tell her I'm okay, and there's times where I do have to say I'm okay, but I'm actually not
Mhm.
okay. But I think that your family knows. I know that I can tell you that my family, just by looking at my eyes, they usually say, "We know you're not feeling okay." So they
Yes.
always try to take care of me in many different ways. But um, yes, you're right. As patients, or we just don't want to be a burden to our loved ones. We don't want to be a burden to our children, to my husband, or to my mom.
Yeah.
So it is difficult. So we do try to hide it sometimes. but I have to say, my sister Stella knows me inside and out, so she knows. She knows.
And you know, she didn't want to answer that question.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Stella.
No, I was going to say, but it's okay to, get that car out of the garage, and it's okay because you are a person. These illnesses do not define who you are.
Right.
So you can't cover it up. You can't, we see you and we still love you. So with a disease, with an illness, with with arthritis or without, we still love you guys. So just let us know. We could still see it anyway.
I'm ready to be a Mata sister. I'm fully crying right now.
Of another sister.
Oh my God.
And I know that, right. I know
Get
that.
the windshield wipers.
Oh my God.
And I have to say that, I do get reminded by my sister and my family to get my tune-ups, all my checkups, and to make sure that to make my notes and take my notes to make sure that when I do get my checkup, that I have everything notated so that, the doctor, my mechanic, make sure that, treats me or gives me what I need.
Exactly. Now, Stella, can you sort of follow up on that? Because I think a lot of, people in my family are watching right now, but is there anything that what was your process like being a family maker or a family member, not a maker, a family member?
And, I'm a maker too. I have two daughters.
I was going to say,
I'm kidding.
I think the caretakers and family members also go on a journey. And can I ask, what was it like for you?
We do. We go on our own journey, right? So we go through different phases. So for me, I think education has been huge. I want to learn about the illnesses that we have. We have a lot of autoimmune in our family. I myself, I have fibromyalgia. My daughter has fibromyalgia. But, knowing that we had so many conditions, it's always good for us to learn about them, learn about the symptoms, learn about the medications that our loved ones are taking, the side effects, because let me tell you, some of those side effects do not go well with the family, because you can get mood swings, you could, just not be feeling well or even be drowsier and stuff like that. So to me, education has been one of the biggest things, is just learning about the conditions, the medications, the treatments that are being taken, and how it affects the person. So that has been huge. Emotionally, I think that we need support. We need to support each other. So my mom having osteoarthritis, I'm not the only one that takes care of her. We make sure that all the family members, including our children, learn about what osteoarthritis is, what rheumatoid arthritis is, and how it can also impact their daily lives, right? So learning about it, sharing about it, and talking about it. It's okay to talk about it. It's okay to say, today I'm not feeling well. And that's been really hard, especially coming from a Hispanic Latino community. My mom is the homemaker, right? Her chores are every day. She has to take care of everyone. And we have to tell her it's okay to say that you're in pain and that you can't do the dishes today. It's okay if you can mop. It's okay if you ask for help. So I think learning about it, learning how to communicate with each other has been one of the things that we've been able to do with our family. And we do that through our support groups. We teach others, right? So you share your story. You also share what you have learned, what has worked for you. And we encourage others to also seek support groups, because I know with our support group, we tend to both caregivers, loved ones, and those living with illnesses. So, it's very, very good to have support.
Yeah, I think that becomes a journey in itself, because I've been through so much now where I've told different people different things, or been more open or less open about what I have. And then I learned that you just have to be completely honest, because whoever comes into your life that means something becomes another chance to be an advocate with you. I just started a new relationship like as an adult, and was fully honest from the very beginning, like probably scary honest, where I thought he was just going to run for the hills. And he has been so good at educating himself and asking questions and coming to doctor's appointments. And I don't understand like why he wants to, but at the same time, it's been amazing to have another person on your team. And I wish that I had started that earlier in my life. I wish that I had trusted people to to just care about you, even if you have what you have. I thought that I let my disease weigh down who I was so much that I let it color other people's opinions before they even had them.
And that's why there's passenger seats in the car. We can come along for the ride.
Our
She's so
co-pilots.
good at this. Oh
She
my
is.
God.
So
Way
good.
Hello to my passenger out
I
there.
know.
Right.
I know. So can I ask, because I like I have said, I've known Katie. I feel like I know Rick, even though I've never met him in person. I feel like I know Judy, and I'm following the Mata sisters, and Tiffany is like a sister to me at this point. But what spurred all of you to start advocacy work? Because I will tell you, if you talk to people who knew me as a kid and they find out I do public speaking, and they were kind of shocked because I was super quiet. But there was something about this for me. I felt so alone because I do live by myself. I don't live near my family. I felt so alone. And I think all I could think of is, God, there's got to be other people out there like me. And once I found them, I was like, wow, what can I do so that nobody else feels the way I did? That was how I started. Like, I was feeling alone. So I'm really interested because, again, I think, Rick, you've done so much with awareness. I think Judy should have a superhero cape for all the awareness she spreads, because she is probably one of the most devoted advocates I've ever met, and in all the years I've known her. So I'm just curious, because I think a lot of people don't think that they can do this. And I'm just curious as to what
in my
spurred you
case,
on.
I was bored. I had to stop working in 2008, and I was crushed. I mean, I didn't have. I was absolutely crushed, and so I was just a shell of myself. And what we decided was that I wanted to go back to school, and so I did that, and I got my doctorate in 2013. And then I got out of school for the third time, and I didn't have anything to do again. And Cheryl said, well, you can't go back to school because, we've done that. And goodness knows that, when your wife puts up with you getting a doctorate degree and you're never going to work again, you can certainly understand that. And so I decided I would start writing a blog, and I did in the diabetes community, and I saw what I thought was an opportunity in the RA community, and I took up that, and it just went on from there. And why do I do it? Is because I would be bored out of my mind if I didn't.
And you represent a lot of people really, really well. Really, really
Yeah,
well.
I mean, I'm a professional ne'er-do-well, but goodness sakes, I do have standards.
And you're helping so many people
Yeah.
with your stories and with your blogs. My mom also lives with diabetes. So, thank you on behalf of everyone that you have helped.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to ask Judy what got her started, because again, like I said, yeah, like honestly, she is. If you have a cause, she has it. And I think one of the things that, I wrote a book, and she sent me a picture of her in Australia holding my book, and I remember crying because I couldn't believe it made it all the way to another country. So she's just the biggest supporter. So Judy, what started you on the journey?
Dad, don't want my nieces or anyone else to ever have to, if they were ever, hope never, but if they ever were diagnosed with something like that, or people in family, I want to learn everything I can. So I thought advocating might be a good way to do that, and support the world, basically, everyone that I can.
You always, and Judy, you do. If you don't follow Judy, she is literally like she's got a car behind her, and you're wearing stuff too, aren't you? You're wearing auto stuff.
Yeah, she does.
Oh, look at this. See,
it's a tire and a little flag on a lanyard,
and you've got your arms.
Yeah, she's got her arms.
She only knows how to go 100%. Team too
Yeah,
much over here, and we
seriously.
love it.
Yes.
Seriously.
Yeah, she goes 100%. And I think that is really a good segue into, we're getting into sort of the tail end here of our, we've already, believe it or not, been on for about 45 minutes. The time
Do
flies.
it for the racing
Time
team.
Yes. So we've been sharing our experiences and our stories because it really shows that there's so many perspectives and experiences and reasons why we might share the need for awareness, but also how you can see it affects, our diseases affect us in many different ways, and our caregivers as well. So in honor of World Autoimmune and Autoinflammatory Arthritis Day, we are asking for, there's already been some really great examples here throughout this conversation. We are trying to figure out ways that we can really play on the auto theme to creatively teach people more about our diseases. And, Rick again mentioned a really great point in the beginning. There's a lot of different layers here for education. If you don't know that you have something, when do you go to the doctor? So we need to educate the public in general. We also heard other people talking about just being misunderstood or invisible disease. And so then there's the public as a whole to understand what we have and that, we're living with these conditions, family members, self-education. I mean, so many things. And so putting it down to kind of the bare bones, and I have some props here. So I've got it crooked. Okay. So I have little props here, but if we were going to drive awareness, right? What are some things that we could do to associate our diseases with either automobiles or racing or auto parts, like tires, for example? We have some high octane tires here, fuel. There's all kinds. I even have a fuel box. Fuel.
Oh my gosh.
Fancy.
So ideas. Does anybody have some thoughts? Yes,
Yes.
we would love for you to start,
Please.
Judy. Yes, please.
Fuel is like fuel in a car is needed to keep it moving. Well, we take some of us take biologics for our treatment, and that's like our fuel within our body to keep us moving.
Yep. And that also could be
helps slow the progression of our disease.
Yes, absolutely. Sorry. Awesome one. I see you've got
advocacy.
Other ones. You have more. You're reading a list. I think you made a list.
I did. I've been, if you can see it, I've
So
been
proud.
busy.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
Can I share one?
Yes.
I think self-care. So when you're going on those big curves, you need to slow down. You need to know when to slow down.
I need to learn that one.
She's so good.
Love it.
Oh,
Love it.
I'm your biggest fan.
Judy, throw another one out there because you have such a strong list. We got to hear a couple more.
Tires is like the never-ending constant fatigue that we have.
Ooh, tires.
Just feels like it doesn't end, but it's always rolling, like a tire rolling in a racing track.
So I'll say with the
one of the harder symptoms. Sorry.
As I said about the tires, sometimes we are just feeling so weak, so the tire is rolling or it's deflating, so we're just like going down, and I mean the more it deflates, the more weaker we feel. So if the tire is deflated, then the car is not going to be moving. So
or what if putting fancy rims or something on the tire because we want to try to pretend that we're okay.
See, I was gonna go there. So in a way, you know how like you ever get a check engine light or something and you just kind of ignore it, like, oh, maybe it'll go away. I learned very early on, to pay attention to your maintenance light and your check engine light, because holy crap, you're not getting away from these problems. Like they're just gonna get worse,
Right.
Katie, I have to say that when I get a check engine light, I never ignore it.
Good for you.
I also say too, because I am not an expert on cars. So when I get a mechanic saying, oh, you have to do this and it's going to cost it, I will go and get a second opinion. And it's the same thing with your health. If you don't feel confident, or if you just want to be sure, don't be afraid. As I've always said, I've kissed a lot of frogs along the way in the medical community, but you know, speaking up, and I finally feel like I have a team, which would be like your pit crew,
Ooh.
to help keep me going. And I think it's really important. And something I learned along the way is I had a doctor who was not in my network. And that might be different for you, Judy, but in here we have to stick with doctors who only take our insurance.
You had to get an
And
import.
exactly.
Oh.
Had an import. And it caused me to end up in the hospital because he wasn't getting the same information that everybody else was getting.
Yeah.
So I kept going to him, but he wasn't, and I didn't realize he wasn't getting all of their notes. So I ended up in the hospital. So I think that's the other thing. Don't be afraid to get a second opinion.
Yeah, I think that Tiffany was sort of talking about this on our episode a little bit, where she was talking about how she's had many rheumatologists. And I've always said from the very beginning that finding a good specialist is like dating, and you have to go through a couple bad ones before you find the one that really fits. And it's okay, because this is going to be a partner for you in life. It's just as important as like someone you're getting into a relationship with, you know,
Exactly.
because this is someone who's going to know your body in and out, and whatever it takes to get comfortable with that person is what it takes, and never feel bad for what you need for your body.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Great point. So what are some other things that we can, I know Judy's got a list, so I just got to ask her. At least, I mean, she works so hard, but
Yeah.
Judy, just know we'll still share those. Just
Oh,
because
yeah.
we're going to close down, you know, just because we have to close down doesn't mean
Yes.
we're not going to share all of these wonderful ideas of yours. Nate, give us one more. Like if you could give the one that you think is just the best, we could create a poster out of it. We could really start to teach people about our diseases. What would you say?
That our diseases aren't always what they seem. That
Mhm.
there's no one size fits all. Like under the hood, that's the main one for me. Like there's all the extra symptoms that go along with that, like the fatigue and dry eyes, pain. You can't actually see the pain. You might maybe have deformity that could be part of it that might be visible, but actual pain itself is not visible. So it's like under the hood of a car. You don't see it until you lift it up and look at it. So if we talk about it by raising awareness, then people can become more aware about it.
You're raising the trunk up, and you're
Yes,
raising the hood up,
raising
and
the
you're
trunk.
showing everybody. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome.
And I think taking a lap at a time, you know, with your eyes always looking towards the finish line, right? You can't give
Yeah.
up regardless of how bad you did on that lap. You just have to keep going.
Yeah, I kind of want to add a little bit to that, because I think that's an excellent point. I think that at different points in our diseases, we all get to different places, and check back on your people. If anybody's in park, you know, like you've been there before and you might be there again. So even if you're in drive and you're getting somewhere, always look back.
Nice. Nice.
Yes.
So as we start to wrap this up, I just like to kind of go around and ask everybody, you know, if we could really hope for one thing on these types of awareness days that we could teach to somebody, is there something that you can think of that you really wish that you could, that as a takeaway that people, and whether that's public doctors, whoever your audience is, what would you like to see happen out of these awareness efforts?
For me, it's be truthful. Be truthful with yourself. Be truthful with your family. Be truthful with your doctor. Um, it does us no good to hide something, and it does us no good to keep it to ourselves.
Nice. Who wants to go next?
I would say that you're not alone, because it can be very lonely feeling, especially when your body stops doing things that you think it's supposed to do. It's a very lonely and frustrating and scary thing. So knowing you're not alone and taking care of that mental health piece, because you know you try and be positive, and sometimes like when I was saying, you know, you say you can keep going, and really your body can't, and that's physically and mentally exhausting.
Mhm.
So keep in mind that you're not alone, and don't be afraid to get help that you
Right.
need.
Yeah. And what Kelly, you were saying that, knowing that you're not alone, and that's true, knowing who to go to, knowing who you can trust, who can be there for you. And usually, I mean, you know who to go to. Or even attending support groups where you can share, not only will you be helping other people, but you're also going to be getting the support and help from others.
I think the one thing I would say is to wherever you are and whatever you're doing, take a step forward and join us because we need you.
More voices.
Yes.
Hmm. Judy?
Yes, please. Yes, please join us.
What?
Join us all. We all have a voice. We're all using it, even if you are a little bit shy like me. Join. There's many projects going on. We can all support and get behind.
Okay. All right. Estella, what would you say is your takeaway? If you could take some awareness and education out there, what would you hope happens for these as a result of these types of days?
I think that the people that are watching this are empowered to do the same. Everyone has a voice. We can all learn. Every day we can learn one thing. And if today you've learned anything, learn that your illness does not define you and that your voice matters.
Very well said. So
And
I'll just go
but
ahead.
I want to
Yep.
add, before it's playing right off of that, something that Tiffany's been saying for years: you can change the world from your sofa.
Yes,
And
you can.
some of us do go to DC, and some of us do go to our state capitals and things like that, but not everybody's able to do that. So knowing
Right
that
now.
there are ways to be advocates, and you
Yeah.
can do it sitting on your couch, and you can make a difference. We built this organization with Tiffany leading the way, all from our
On
sofas.
my couch.
And we're
on our
proving that right
couches.
now. Everybody's sitting on your butt and we're all doing something.
I'm not. I'm at a racetrack. I don't know what you're talking about. So thank you all again for joining. We really wanted to take this opportunity to talk about the need for awareness and education, share some of our experiences, and I think that the thread that has come about is really having a voice and encouraging other people to learn about their diseases and also teach others. And only by sharing our stories and by having voices and really getting out there in the world and teaching people more about these, will we start to get the earlier detection and diagnosis and quality of life and access to treatments and just combat the misunderstandings, right? That so many of us live with. So I do want to say thank you to each and every one of these amazing co-hosts. And I'm sorry for the ones that weren't able to join us, but you can learn all about our co-hosts and all of our shows at aiarthritis.org /podcast. And you can click on the little button that says meet our team, and you'll be able to learn more about all of these wonderful people. And in moving forward, you'll be seeing them a lot more or hearing them a lot more on the show. As I start taking more of the shows over. I started because somebody had to start. I'm happy to turn it over and start having more people co-hosting the show. If you're listening, it is always time after we're done. We don't necessarily finish the show just because we go off of the air. And your voice always matters. So we're asking you to step up. And if you're watching this on Facebook, please submit your comments on why you think that we need more awareness and education. You can share your story and, of course, share your creative tips on comparing our diseases to automobiles, because we will turn all of that into educational awareness materials. If you are not comfortable sharing publicly, that's okay. You can message us on our social media pages at AiArthritis, or you can just send an email to podcast@aiarthritis.org, and we will collect all of your comments. But other than that, I want to thank you all again for joining us and for taking a seat at the table. Thank you so much. It's been awesome.
Bye, everybody. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany.